30th, 2020 public hearing of the City of Prescott Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Don Michaelman, and I would like to call upon the other members of the commission to introduce themselves. Ted?
I'm Ted Gambogi.
Tom?
Good morning, Tom Hutchison here.
George?
George Lee here.
Greg?
Greg Lozelle here.
All right, and I think that's the number we have.
So Butch.
Butch, oh, sorry, Butch.
That's all right. It's Butch Tracy.
And Stan Goligoski's here too.
Good morning, Stan.
Morning.
So we have full attendance. This is a open public hearing and is being taped and recorded and videotaped by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, local cable and radio stations. The number of commissioners present is 7. It will require 4 votes for a majority. As some individuals may be attending this meeting remotely, all parties wishing to be heard, including commission members, are asked to state their name prior to speaking in order to ensure accurate minutes. Members of the public, when called upon, are required to state their name and address for the record so we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date. Our first order of business is the approval of the June 25th, 2020 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections? If not, do I hear a motion?
This is Ted Gambogi. I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second?
Yeah, George Lee will second it.
We've had a motion and a second. Any further discussions?
I will take a vote on it now. This is Kaylee.
Okay.
So just say yes or no if you approve the minutes from June 25th. Ted Gambogi,
Yes.
Don Michaelman,
Yes.
George Lee,
Yes.
Thomas Hutchison,
Yes,
Stan Goligoski,
Yes.
Butch Tracy,
Yes.
Greg Lozelle.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Next on our agenda is introduction for proposed annexation, general plan amendment, and master plan for property known as Stringfield at Granite Mountain. The applicant is Jeff Davis. It is APN 106-06-002C like in Charlie, and a portion of 106-006-002D like in Delta. County zoning is R1L-70 residential. Who from the staff will be talking about this?
George, you're muted, dear. Let's get you unmuted.
Mute. Okay. That's nice. So my staff apparently has figured out how to mute me. This is a proposal for a future annexation application that you will see. So this is an introduction to you. Some time ago, Jeff Davis, the potential developer of this property, came before your predecessors on the Planning Commission with a similar introduction. But there's been enough change on the commission membership that we thought this would be a good opportunity for him to come back and just say, hey, here's something that's coming along. It's moving through the process. And we would be able to answer any questions you may have about it, about the process itself. Brent has been at the forefront of moving this through a stage of state land acquisition that's necessary. But at this point, we do have Jeff on the line, and we will let Jeff go through his presentation. I do have the information, mapping information we provided or will provide to you as part of the presentation. So Jeff, if you want to go, just tell me when to change pages.
Jeff is muted. There you go.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Loud and clear. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you very much for the time today to present this project to you. As George stated, I have brought this forward for a couple of cursory presentations, both to planning and zoning and to the council. For those of you that, some of you know me, some of you don't. I've been here in town for over 25 years and have developed a couple large projects. I was a managing partner for the Prescott Lakes project inside the city limits, and I was the managing partner for American Ranch, which we developed in the county. So I've had the experience of doing both. And Stringfield, I feel, is best suited to be inside city limits, which I can touch on in just a bit. More of my background is I've been, like I said, I've been here in Prescott for close to 30 years. Over the past 10 years, I have been building luxury custom homes up in Enchanted Canyon in the Thumb Butte area. My wife and I own a 5,000 square foot store at 134 North Cortez, downtown off the square. And I've been involved in restoration of historical properties. I've done 6 historical properties here in town and raised my 4 kids here. So over the past couple years, I've been working on the Stringfield project. It was brought to me by Irene Stringfield, the owner, as well as her broker. And the idea was, how do we build a development here that would be a legacy for the Stringfield family? Irene was very impressed with American Ranch and asked that we take a look at the possibility of developing Stringfield along those lines, which is what I've done. As you can see, the property sits right at the intersection of Pioneer Parkway and Williamson Valley Road. The location is a very strong location for development. We do have city water out on Williamson Valley Road. Sewer is down Pioneer Parkway, but reachable. And of course, gas and power and everything else is right there in Williamson Valley Road. So the only obstacle, or the main obstacle, has been access, which the State Land Trust owns a strip of property that's about 900 feet deep off of the intersection, which is not inside the city limits. The east side of Williamson Valley Road is the major portion of the section of State Land Trust property, which was annexed into the city at a previous time, but for some reason the west side did not get annexed in. So through conversations with the city, with staff, we felt the best proposal was to let the city be the applicant for a portion of that State Land Trust property that would enable us to meet the qualifications for annexation for both the acquired parcel, what we call the state land parcel, and the Stringfield Ranch. So from a zoning perspective, it's in the county. We currently have 2-acre zoning. So they're actually 70,000 square foot parcels, about 450 parcels could be platted and developed inside the county. What I've proposed is a master plan for 264 units. George, if you could switch up to the master plan. Thank you. The other big piece that comes into play with the Stringfield property is the red line that you see is the circle trail. Currently, your trail is developed to the east side of the intersection, the northeast corner of Williams Valley Road and Pioneer Parkway. And users of the trail are going south on Williams Valley Road and then going through the adjacent neighborhood to the south. So Joe Baines has been successful negotiating a trail easement through the state land parcel, and that's what you see on the west side of Williamson Valley up to the Stringfield property line. At that point, then part of the annexation, part of the development agreement that we'll be bringing forward is that the Stringfield property will grant an easement through the 700 acres from our east property line to our west property line, which is Prescott National Forest. So that's, I think, a huge public benefit that will complete the Circle Trail. It will get the users off of the public right-of-ways and just create a much safer and a much more pleasant trail experience. The strip from the intersection up to the entry of the project is 400 feet wide, and my project will be developing the fourth leg of the intersection, and we'll be building a public road from that intersection up to the entry into the project. Also, at the same time, I am agreeing to do the mass grading for the trailhead, which will allow for trailer parking so that the equestrian user can access the Circle Trail as well as pedestrian and cycle. We will also be bringing our utilities, the water, through this roadway right away, along with power and sewer, so that in the future you have two remaining state land parcels, your northwest corner and your southwest corner, that then the city, by owning this piece of property and by owning the public right-of-way as well as the public utilities, will have ultimate control of the development of those two parcels, which I think is another large public benefit and city benefit. The lot layout that you see, the lots that are in the, I don't know what color you call that, a kind of an orangey color, those are all 2-acre lots. And the lots that are in the yellow color are all 1-acre lots, plus or minus on both. Some of the 2 acres will be plus 2 acres, maybe up to 3 acres. Some of the yellow colored lots can be, I don't have anything less than a half an acre. There's a few in there, but most are 3/4 acre to an acre, maybe an acre and a half. My past 10 years since I retired from the M3 companies and kind of thought I was going to retire, in building and marketing properties up in the Thumb Butte area at Enchanted Canyon, I've seen a lot of buyers that have come, consumers that have come into Prescott that still feel that a half an acre is limited. We've had a lot of folks that have RVs that are travelers. They're retired, they're traveling. Some are car buffs, car collectors. So the 2-acre lots are, where possible, where the terrain allows, we'll be providing accessory buildings or allowing for the provision of accessory buildings. And I think that's a niche in the market that's not been available. So I think that there'll be a strong demand for that product. And the others, being 1 acres, would allow for, some of them would allow for attached RV garages for the consumer that just has an RV and would like to have it protected and stored inside. The streets will be private, given that we have no access out of the Stringfield project into any public streets. We've decided to create private streets. So we'll be responsible for the maintenance of those streets. The sewer system will be primarily a low pressure system, which has been developed in Hacienda, Prescott Lakes, American Ranch, Enchanted Canyon. The HOA will be responsible for maintaining the low pressure system. The project, we're agreeing to landscape the entry road, the public road from Williamson Valley to the project. And also I'll have the HOA maintain that landscaping. So the cost and overhead for the city is minimal going forward. And we'll have sewer to recharge into your sewer system in return for providing water. The open space you see is approximately 34%. That's about a 33% increase over the minimum. So we're going to protect as much as we can. The lots in the center of the project are running across the ridge. You can see where there's plenty of room on top of the ridge to do the ingress egress of the street. Lots on both sides. I've already drafted up the design guidelines and the CC&Rs. I was responsible for creating both for Prescott Lakes and American Ranch. Those properties will be limited on height, single story only. We will limit the pitch of the roofs in order to keep low profile, and also will mandate colors to keep those more in an earth tone color in order to have a very small amount of impact in that area. I think that kind of runs me through the project. If you go to the next piece of it, we're going to develop the project in phases. Taking bite to this was successful at American Ranch. So our first phase, you can see there are, that's 63 lots in phase one approximately. Phase two has 61 lots. So I see those being developed over probably a 24-month period of time. And that's all market driven, of course. But that's where we'll try and run this through the phases. You can see the different phases. You can see the total number of lots. The next exhibit, George. This just kind of drills down on the entry. You can see the width of the property that the city is purchasing from State Land Trust. You can see the trailhead parking area. You can see how we'll develop the street and the landscaping there at the entry. You can see where we're have provided access to the two state land parcels. So it's approximately about 9 acres. So it's a nice lineal park. There's obviously a lot more could be done with it than just the trailhead. The last exhibit or next exhibit, this just is a street section. We're proposing to develop our street sections into your standard detail for the rural local residential. Because of our density, we're about 1 unit per 3 acres. The street sections show your asphalt sections. You got shoulders. We create bar ditches to take care of our water. So it's a more rural setting. We did this at American Ranch. Very safe, very successful with that. It does create a nice environment for the residents to walk. Less concrete, just a more rural, natural setting. And I would be happy to answer questions. I think I've covered everything, unless Brent or George, you think I missed something?
This is George Lee. Jeff? Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yes, George.
Good to hear your voice. It's been a long time.
Thank you.
What is the status of the city's acquisition of the entrance to state land? Is that moving along? Is it complete? Do you have an estimated timetable for that?
I think Bryn would probably be best to respond. She's working with the liaison with the State Land Trust on that.
Yeah, I can go ahead and speak to that, Commissioner Lee. Thanks for the question. John Palladini of our legal team, who is also on the meeting right now, have been working, collaborating with the State Land Department on our pending application. We initiated the application over a year ago, and the application is currently in the status of the State Land Department is seeking an appraisal of this property, the actual entry piece that you see right there. Once the appraisal is done, they will circle back to us and let us know where the appraisal landed in terms of value of the property. And then they have a couple of board processes that they need to get through this fall to move the acquisition to an auction, which the city will obviously be a bidder on. And of course, we're the only bidder because this is a city and developer initiated collaboration. We do not expect there to be really any hiccups with that. It just takes some time to get the application through the state land process. And the current estimate from the file handler at State Land places the auction somewhere around February. So it's quite a lengthy process to get through acquiring the property that State Land owns, but we have been tracking it and following it and doing all of the due diligence that's been requested of us, and that's where it stands right now.
After February, how long do you think it'll take to get the land transferred to Jeff Davis and his group?
I don't actually believe that we intend to have the trailhead be transferred into Mr. Davis's ownership and city ownership, because it will be, in fact, a city facility in addition to access to the Stringfield Ranch development. So the current plan is that the city would retain ownership of that, and we would have maintenance of the trailhead, the parking, and any other city facilities that are placed there.
And also providing the access to the state land.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. George can maybe speak to the residual amount of the planning and zoning process to complete the acquisition, or to complete the annexation once the acquisition is completed.
Bryn, can I?
Yeah, and as you're aware, go ahead.
Sorry, George. Commissioner Lee, I think it's important, and I know I stated it before, but when we have had our conversations with staff regarding this development, the decision was made for the city to be the applicant on this piece of property and to own this piece of property. As much as I would love to own it and control those two corners and the access at the end of the day, I don't think that's, as a Prescottonian and as one of the rest of you, I think having the city own this asset, control the trailhead, control development in there, and then control access and utilities, I think is an important decision that was made, and the reason why we made that decision.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks, Jeff.
Are there any other questions?
And as, well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important just to keep in mind that at this stage, it's sort of preliminary as far as the actual annexation goes, subject to the Stringfield Ranch property actually abutting the city. So we have to complete the acquisition of the property in order for the city to extend its corporate limits to the point where the Stringfield Ranch can then technically technically be annexed in. So there are a couple more steps after. Once that's been done, we would be able to formally initiate the annexation. So at this time, while we have had a lot of discussions with Mr. Davis on the annexation, it's not a formal, it's not in a formal process yet.
Jeff, this is Don Michaelman. I had a couple of questions if it's possible.
Okay.
Will the homes in the property there be required to be sprinklered?
Yes, more than likely, Chairman, Mr. Chairman. The way that I haven't built anything yet at Enchanted Canyon that didn't have to be sprinkled. The way that the fire department has set up its testing purposes, mostly by just getting around the house. They've got a process where you park the truck at the street in front of the lot. You get to go 150 feet each direction with a hose, and if you cannot get those to cross in the back, then you need sprinkled. So that's been a requirement with the half-acre lots where I've been building. These are, the smallest is 1 acre, so you're never going to get a hose that far. So I think I can safely say that yes, all of these houses will be sprinkled.
Okay. Where the power line goes through the property, is that a potentiality for emergency access in there?
No, given the terrain where the those are 69 kV wires are set up on wood poles, where they cross Waveson Valley Road, there's a steep grade right there where you could not get up in there.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Tom Hutchison here.
Go ahead.
Jeff, I'm wondering, and this may be premature, but the trailhead parking lot, is it big enough? Does it satisfy the needs with this development going in? My guess is that the development is going to enhance a lot of traffic there. Is that something that's been thought about?
Well, I think that anybody that is a resident of the new development will have their own access. There'll be no equestrian allowed at this project, so there'll be no access to the trail horseback wise from Stringfield. But bicycle and pedestrian, yes. So I don't see the project creating any need for parking at your trailhead because they'll have their own access. I think it strictly will be driven by the rest of the public, and that's a Joe Baines question, in my opinion. I think Joe has a better grip on it. We've only provided a very small piece there, but I think there's 40 some parking spaces there, and maybe 9. I don't have that in my notes here. Maybe 9 trailer parking spots. So I think that Joe and Chris have thought that through. They've come up with the initial phase 1 development of the trailhead, which they believe is going to be sufficient. And you obviously have plenty of room if you find you need to expand that.
The idea, Jeff, is that if you've got this nice shiny new development that might be an attraction for people to come out and see, and that may generate a lot of traffic out there. That's the thought.
I understand.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Jeff, this is Stan Goligoski. Am I stepping on anybody?
Nope.
Good deal. Just kind of listen to some of the residents in the area. Jeff, I know there's some concern of those 43 lots in phase 2, that it's in that northeastern corner, kind of the chimney, if you will. Is there any talk about maybe shifting that into a different phase, like a later phase, and still achieve the density and your internal rate of return kind of so as you kind of ease into the area. Just talking to some of the people that are on that Rancho Vista trail area. I know it's down the hill from them, but just as a heads up, is there any talk about that?
No, I mean, I can appreciate that. And so, it's a good question. I had the land planners take a solid look at where we could put our density. We got a lot of topography out there. So we're trying to create big lots where we've got the topography. So we don't get in there with any big scars, keep it as natural as possible. That particular area is pretty flat up there, flat for Prescott.
Sure.
And so that's why we were able to move some of the density into that area. It's very difficult to spend the kind of money for off-site infrastructure that this has. It's 2 miles of sewer to get connected with the city. There's a 1/4 mile of the public road coming in with the trailhead. And then once you get into 2-acre lots, you got a lot of road frontage, a lot of utilities, where you're, coming down through there getting 2 lots, 1 on each side. Obviously, what we did at Prescott Lakes with mass grading and high density, that's what you're seeing at the Granite Dells. And I don't want to do that. There's a need for that product. There's a market for it. And I'm not wanting to do that. I don't want to mass grade. I don't want to cut and fill. I want to come in and just slip these roads through, try and miss the big old trees where I can. Save the rock outcroppings and just create a nice footprint here like we did at American Ranch, and then let the guys come in and build their houses there. So I'm way low on density. And so to go up into that area and try and reduce that more would be pretty difficult to do.
Yeah, maybe just considering a different phase. That's all, just ease into it. Just as an option, that's kind of what I'm hearing from residents. But
I got you. Well,
I want to give you a heads up.
I hear you. And it's market driven. I mean, based on what I've seen in velocities, and I think we're going to be a while before we get to phase 2 and we actually can get in there and go with that. I think it will take a while. Don't know how long, but
sure. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bryn. May I make a comment?
Yes.
Thank you. Jeff, I think you mentioned it, but I want to reiterate that were this to be developed in the county, this amount of property and existing zoning would allow for just over 400 developable lots. So with the lower density approach that Jeff is taking with development, and the benefits to the city with the return of sewer recharge, this is a much better scenario than having 400 septic systems and 400 individual wells developed in the county. So the city really looks at that as a conservation measure, and it's in addition to the benefit of the Circle Trail, et cetera. I just wanted to make that noted. That's quite a big difference between 264 and just over 400.
Thank you, Brent. Any other questions of Jeff?
This is Ted Gambogi.
Yes, Ted.
First, I want to salute you in finishing that part of the Circle Trail, because when COVID hit and the YMCA shut down, I hiked the Circle Trail and I had to hike up Williamson Valley Road and cross the intersection at Pioneer Parkway. So that'll be a great improvement. Jeff, I just wanted to be sure. I think I heard you say the yellow lots would be 1 acre plus, and then I think I heard you say the smallest lot would be 1/2 acre. What would be the smallest lot?
None of these have been measured up. My land planner explained to me he's got nothing less than 1/2 acre on any of those. And when we drill down into the preliminary plats and we can actually get out on site and start staking out streets and looking at the terrain, that drives the ultimate number. The development agreement's given me a maximum of 264 lots. With the PAD overlay, it allows me to adjust sizes, but I'm comfortable there'll be nothing less than a half an acre. I have no interest in that, so I don't have a problem putting that on the record.
Okay. And that ratio comes out to like 2.6 acres per lot if you just take the gross numbers. And you said there's 34% open space?
Yes, that's what our calculation is.
Now, I don't know if this is a question to Jeff or to George, but what would, if I'm the state, I'm going to ask, okay, you want a right of way and you want a trailhead, that's good. What am I going to do with the rest of the state land that's west of Williamson Valley Road?
Well, I can try to answer that. Bryn may have some input as well, having talked to the State Land Department. One of the things that's being created by this process, which is important, are the two potential future, whatever you want to call them, road accesses into those properties that would be functional. Currently, trying to get onto either the northern or the southern piece from Williamson Valley Road is problematic. They're either major cuts or major drop-offs adjacent to the roadway that the State Land Department's future buyer would have to negotiate or develop. So keep in mind too that as the State Land Department's purpose is to sell land to developers, making road access available to them automatically increases the value of that property. So we think they're following through on this acquisition process because they see this opportunity to have those properties more likely to be attractive to developers. Back to their original purpose, to sell the property to someone to develop. And that road access will do that far better than the problematic access that would occur directly off Williamson Valley Road. And I'm not sure if Bryn has any other insight from them directly, because she's been in contact with them directly.
Sure. Thank you, George. I mean, I second everything that you said. We can extrapolate just from our conversations with State Land that this is doing nothing but driving the value of their residual parcels upward. And they will have the opportunity to do what they are tasked with doing, which is to sell state land at the highest to the highest and best use at the highest and best value to support our state's educational system. So from their standpoint, I think this is a win-win proposition. They're getting paid for this 400-foot strip. It's going to be developed with access into the residual parcels, and it is it's a benefit to them ultimately.
So in the future, would the possibility come up that those two sections would be annexed into the city?
It's possible.
It's a possibility, yes. One of the things that would make it more likely to occur is the connection that would be made in the proximity to the city limit lines. So yes, I think this process would allow them in the future to decide to develop in the county or to annex into the city and develop in the city.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
So, Mr. Chairman, we have a couple of participants from the public who have asked to be able to speak. This is a presentation for the commission, but if you would like us to allow them to speak, we can allow that to occur.
That'll be fine.
Tammy, if you're on there.
Planner.
Hi, Tammy.
So we're going to allow Nancy. Nancy, we unmuted you so you can speak, and if you have any questions or any comments. You have to unmute yourself, though. Nancy?
Says she's unmuted.
Nancy, do you want to speak? Okay. Well, we'll mute her back, and R. Carl Mueller, you have to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great, thank you. I have a few questions.
Excuse me, could you give your full name and address, please?
Yes, I'm just going to do that. Richard Mueller. I live on 1785 West Buena Vista Trail.
Thank you.
My property and my neighbor's property is about to have a whole lot of new neighbors. I spoke with several of my neighbors yesterday, and we have a lot of concerns. One of the things that I wanted to bring up with Mr. Davis was in reading the notes from the July 30th, 2020 meeting. In the background section, it states, with annexation, the property will be zoned the city equivalent of the county zoning, which is the residential estate 2-acre, RE 2-acre. Now, in listening to Mr. Davis, the first two phases are going to be under an acre, some of them. How can he do that if this is to be zoned in the equivalent of RE 2-acre?
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. I'm George Worley, the planning manager for the city. Our zoning and subdivision planning process allows something called a planned area development. Mr. Davis referred to it as a PAD. The PAD process allows developments to occur on more appropriate land by condensing the development into smaller lots, but creating larger open space areas adjacent or in those particular subdivisions. We measure the density of the development by the overall acreage and the overall number of lots, but there's some flexibility to create smaller lots if you create larger open space. Hopefully that was clear.
It sounds like a loophole to me, but yeah, you know, the open spaces, I see it on the map, is basically I have to believe it's a floodplain area. It's just a little canyon down there. As I said, I'm one of the lucky ones. My property butts up to the little 85-acre state land that will remain the state land. Another question I have for Mr. Davis is, will the residents be allowed to have horses at the property? Hello?
Yep, I'm here, sorry. No, as I stated earlier, there'll be no equestrian properties inside the community.
Okay, that's great. Another thing that some of my neighbors were concerned about is we live in the county and there is a night sky light ordinance. Will this new addition have to abide by the county light ordinance?
Yes, we will have that in our design guidelines and the CC&Rs. So we will monitor the development of the houses. So any exterior light fixtures will be night sky.
Okay, and also will it be gated there at the line where the Stringfield Ranch starts and the new BLM land that the city's going to annex finishes or starts?
Probably so. Yeah, probably so. Don't know exactly. I'm not a big fan of the gates because I think they're a false sense of security. We agreed to do private streets in order to put the burden of the maintenance and repair and replacement onto the project itself, not the city. But I haven't really walked through whether I feel like we need to put gates up there. They're just something that, again, everybody can get through. They wait for the next guy to show up and they follow them in.
Yeah.
And then they break and need repaired. So I'm not sure whether we'll install gates or not.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I appreciate the time and the opportunity to ask these questions. My main concern originally was that this subdivision would be in the county, and I was afraid they would drill a well because we've had an excellent well here for 25 years. And if we were to support the water for 264 homes, I was very concerned about that. And also the septic system. But I'm glad to know that it's going to hook up to city water and sewer, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. So next we will, we'll try Nancy again. Nancy? Nancy, are you there? Hello? Okay, we'll try you again. We have Tony Reeves.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, great. This is Tony Reeves. I'm at 1943 Buena Vista Trail. And some of my questions have already been answered, but I do have a question about phase 2. My property actually goes right up against phase 2, and I'm curious about those lots along the border between Buena Vista Trail and phase 2. Are they going to be providing any kind of wall or fencing that separates our two properties along phase 2?
Okay, here I am. Sorry. Hi, Tony. So I'm not really that far along to know exactly how that would be handled. I think it probably should be some sort of I mean, I'm not a big fan of the barriers. I don't like the walls. It's always been a very contentious conversation at Prescott Lakes and out at American Ranch. You know, American Ranch, we went with all wide open pipe fencing. I'm not a fan of it. The backyard, you know, concrete wall or block wall. I think people are in our community up in this area. We like our views and we like the openness, and I don't think we're afraid to know who our neighbors are. So I just don't have an answer. This is kind of too early and trying to get to that point on what that would look like.
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree with that. That's one of my questions. That I didn't want to one day wake up and see a 10-foot brick wall between me and the view towards Granite Mountain. So I was kind of curious what the plan was for that border along that area.
I think George could probably speak to what the city ordinance is, and height, I believe it's 6 foot maximum. The community fence that I'm putting into the guidelines is a pipe fence. At American Ranch, we did the kind of the traditional 3-rail equestrian fence. Here, I just see a vertical post with a horizontal top and as a border, and especially in the 2-acre pieces. The smaller ones, I just really don't see any fencing other than in the backyard. What we've traditionally done, or what I've traditionally done at Prescott Lakes, and we do it at Enchanted Canyon. You know, most the consumers have pets. We try and connect rear yard fencing to the house, keep it inside the property line. I don't like fences on property lines necessarily, because then the neighbor's dog and your dog, they're fence fighting all the time. If you can offset that, both fences somewhat, then they can't get nose to nose. So it's a tough conversation figuring that out. I've done it. I know how to do it. There will be fencing. I think it will be off property lines in most of those lots in that area. And I think we just maybe need to have a future conversation amongst ourselves as neighbors on what would be the best kind of a border there that keeps everybody in their own property, but at the same time is not too restrictive in your view.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the time, and thank you for all the answers.
Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Chairman, just as we're getting ready to let the next person speak, I just want to reassure everyone that through our annexation process, notification will go out to all the neighboring property owners, and they will have another opportunity to speak and ask questions at that later date as well. Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, so next person is Bridget. Bridget, you're, just need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bridget Kupke. I apologize. I came back from the dentist, so I'm kind of numb. I live on Poma Circle, which is at that would be the south corner, southeast corner, kind of near the Hazoni connection. My question is, I can see right now that you currently have preserved the catchment basins where the natural water flow tends to fill in these water basins. Is there an assurance that you guys are going to keep that space and those water catchments preserved and not add any additional development over those? Because those are critical to keeping our neighborhood from flooding.
Yes, thanks, Bridget. This is Jeff. So if you look at the master plan that George has up and you look down in the southeast corner of the project, you can see where that is all green. There are no lots.
Right.
You can actually see the cattle tanks that are there that collect the water. So we understand, we've done part of our application and filing process with the city is we've done a drainage report for the project. And so we plan to just continue to collect the water there at that point.
Okay.
Like we have in the past.
That is just not going to be touched. That won't change.
No, it's not. You can see where we're not planning on it. You can.
Okay.
I don't know whether you can see it on your screen, but there's about 7 acres there that we've left as open space.
Right.
And I want to keep it in its natural state. Personally, I think that'll be a nice amenity for the residents of Stringfield to be able to go down to that area. It might make a good dog park area.
Right. So, but if any of that changes and you start adding access for dogs and stuff, obviously we'll be notified in advance because that's on my fence line.
Yes, it'll be part of the public hearings as we go forward.
Okay, great. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.
Next, we have Leslie Hoy. Leslie?
You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I figured I'm here.
There you are.
I have oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a few, I'm getting an echo, so this is confusing.
Leslie, could you give us full name and address, please?
Oh, sorry. Leslie, Leslie, Hoy, Hoy, 1880 Coyote Road.
Leslie, if you turn your volume down on your end, it usually resolves that echo.
Oh, okay. Oh, on my phone. Hang on a sec. I don't know, did that help? Can you still?
You're coming in clear to us.
Okay, well, I'll just ignore the echo. Okay, I have some questions that are broader that sort of relate to the Prop 400 requirements because I was a member of the original PAC that passed Prop 400. One thing I'm wondering about is at the first presentation that Mr. Davis made, I understood that he would be paying actually for the cost of the state land strip, but who is paying for that now? And then if the public is paying, when will we find out how much it's going to cost?
Let's have Mr. Palladini respond to that.
So good morning. Originally, through the process of negotiating the pre-annexation development agreement, it was going to be a developer cost to acquire the state trust land, that 9 or 10 acres. Through the process of negotiating and running it through our city council during various executive sessions, there was an expressed desire that the development have internal private streets. So, because as Jeff mentioned, they don't go anywhere. They're essentially only serving development. So as part of the discussion and negotiation, in exchange for the development, privatizing the streets, which essentially means that all the homeowners in there have the ultimate burden of assessments to continue to maintain and repair those in the future, despite the fact that all those folks in there will pay the city 1 cent sales tax for maintenance of streets and repair of roads and streets. The city agreed to pay for the acquisition cost of that state trust land. We don't have, as Bryn said earlier, the appraisal process is going on now, and we'll know what the price is once we get the appraisal. And then, as Bryn also said, it's an actual auction process where the property is set out for auction. We're assuming, because of the nature of the strip and the use, that the city will be the only bidder and that the city will pay the appraised price. Pure speculation on my part and others that the property could be anywhere from 10 to 20,000 an acre, give or take. It may be less, it may be more, but if you do the math on that, you know, it's 100 to 200 or more $1,000 for the purchase, but that's intended to be in exchange for the multi-million dollars that the development would have to assume for the short and long-term maintenance and repair of the internal streets. So from a financial perspective, we see that as actually a good bargain for that. And just so everybody's tracking, this presentation and discussion of the pre-annexation development agreement will be at a council study session, I believe, on August 11. Jeff will come in and brief the council, and we'll brief the council on the pre-annexation development agreement, which then will go for a council vote sometime thereafter. Prior to the actual annexation and zoning discussion, which is a little bit out of the ordinary, but certainly allowable under law because it is a pre-annexation agreement. And if the pre-annexation agreement is ultimately approved by the council, the process still has to go forward to acquire the land from state land. We still have to go through the 400 annexation process, all the hearings, the 60-day cool off period, and then the council discussion. So this will go through that process as well. As Bryn said, the intent of this was to reintroduce the project to the I think 5 new commissioners who hadn't seen it before.
Well, if you sign the pre-development agreement ahead of the Prop 400 process, and then later you decide that, or the public, because of the public input for one reason or another, doesn't like what you did, and the council agrees, because you need 6 of 7 council votes in favor, then what happens legally, because you already did this so far ahead of time?
Well, the pre-annexation development agreement explicitly says that the process, that Prop 400 process has to occur. So it doesn't commit, the council can't commit the city to vote or to contract for a legislative act, which annexation and zoning are. So it doesn't legally commit the council to approving anything. What it does is agrees to set forth the process and the parameters within which the project goes forward. And if the council approves the annexation and approves the rezoning, it'll be consistent with the development agreement. the development agreement doesn't mandate any future approvals.
Okay. Okay, then back to the purchase of the state land. Will the amount that's being bid be approved at an open meeting before the city actually submits the bid?
Yes.
Okay. And then, okay, I have some other questions. Hang on a second, let me find them. Oh, okay, so Prop 400 requires the cost benefit analysis. And one of my concerns about this development is there doesn't appear to be any commercial development that would make the, the benefits greater than the cost. Where are we with that?
As I said, the Prop 400 process will occur, and all of those things that are required by the city charter for annexation of this land will occur. And I would just remind everybody that what the charter requires is that a cost benefit analysis be done. It doesn't, the way it was drafted, it doesn't have any sort of mandate that benefits actually outweigh costs, because it just says that we have to do the cost benefit analysis, and that becomes part of the decision making matrix. But the outcome of the cost benefit analysis doesn't direct a decision one way or another. That being said, it will be done, and as we all know, rooftops drive commercial, and in this area, I'm no developer, but in this area, I would assume that the folks who spoke before you, who I believe are all neighbor, probably don't want a Fry's on the corner or Circle K on the corner of Williamson Valley Road and the Parkway. That's just my speculation. So commercial property or commercial development in that North Prescott area will occur at some point, but it's what we've seen. It is a regional approach to commercial, rather than putting in little bodegas in each neighborhood, as if you were in downtown Manhattan.
Well, you might be correct about that, but I think it's the voters of Prescott approved Prop 400 in 2005, and as time goes on, it means less and less because, unfortunately, as you stated cynically, that the cost benefit analysis doesn't say that the benefits have to outweigh the cost. So I just think that's unfortunate. But on to another question. I don't really understand what the low pressure sewer system is, but I am wondering what percentage of the water use is estimated to go to recharge. Will the low pressure system generate as much effluent as another kind of sewer system?
Mr. Chairman, I can address that issue too. The current one of the benefits, if we're talking cost benefit of this development being a city development, and I think I believe as Mr. Mueller mentioned, and Brandon mentioned, there won't be any wells, there won't be septic tanks, it'll all be city water and city sewer. As a condition of being on city water and city sewer, and as part of being a development in the city, the development will have to comply with the city's current standards for landscaping and outdoor uses, as well as building codes for water efficient fixtures and those kinds of things. And what we know based on real world calculations is that new development in Prescott returns about 90% of the water as effluent to our recharge. So it is an extremely high number, but for annexing into the city, none of that would occur. So where we're talking cost benefit analysis, we can talk in terms of dollars and cents, but if we look at it from a bigger picture, this is one of the reasons why staff supports this project in the way it does, is because of the density is lower as a city development than what could be done as a county, under county zoning, the overall density, and the water sewer issue is substantial to your staff. So that's why we see this as a good project for the city, notwithstanding the trailhead trail easement, the equestrian parking and all that, among other things. And I think what Davis had mentioned as well is this is a phased project, and it's not a mass graded. It's not, you're not going to see 100 homes in 12 months. These are, I believe, custom built. They're custom site type homes. So it is what I kind of see it as a long-term phased in project over many years, as opposed to kind of what we tend to see in North Prescott, which again, nothing wrong with it, but certainly a different project that is a gradual phase, sort of environmentally sensitive or sensitive to the landscape or the project.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to say that I'm not taking a position either in favor or against the project. I just feel that there are questions that we need to have answered in advance. And I appreciate all your answers and the opportunity to ask the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Next,
Mr.
we
Chairman.
have Mayor Pro Tem Billy Orr. Can you unmute yourself? Billy?
I'm trying. Hello there.
You got it.
Do you have me?
Hi,
Okay, great.
we can hear you
Thank
fine.
So I'm actually sitting in for Councilman Shiska today for P&Z. And I just want to say basically what Mr. Palladini said. And I want to thank Jeff Davis for being a partner with the city, really working through some of these details and what we're going to be able to do with regard to the Circle Trail. I think it brings a different project to the city. I think it'll be really something very beneficial for the city. I had the privilege of living in Prescott Lakes, and that was a development that Jeff Davis did. And it is a phenomenal, it really is a wonderful development, and we all love it, the people that live there. And I just have no doubt that once we get through this process, that what we will have with the city of Prescott is something that's truly outstanding. And I believe all those reasons that Mr. Palladini mentioned, as far as less people on wells and less people on septics and protecting this land and really preserving a lot of the natural beauty and providing a great project for the city. So I want to thank Mr. Davis, and I look forward to this process moving forward. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Billy.
You're welcome.
Next, the last one we have is Bob. Hello, Bob?
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, okay, yes. First, I'd like to compliment Mr. Davis. Terrific job on planning this unit. Oh, my address is 2088 West Yampa Drive. So our fence
Bob?
back there. Yes.
Oh, sorry. What is your last name, sir?
Oh, Roberts.
Thank you.
Yes. It's my question is it's my understanding there's some petroglyphs on the south-facing cliffs at the top of the hill and I wondered if there was any thought toward preserving those.
Okay, this is Jeff. Bob, thanks for the question. Although I've hiked this property several times, it's tough terrain. I have not seen any petroglyphs up there myself, but that doesn't mean they're not there. I know at Prescott Lakes, we went to great extents. We hired 2 professors. We created 6 different petroglyph parks. We moved the solstice that existed out there. We went as far and farther than anybody should go on preservation there. So if it is yes, our goal would be to preserve that. That's something that I believe in. I think it's an asset. It's not a negative, it's a positive. So once we can actually get on site and start some real planning out here, which will take place after we're annexed in, then provided that happens, then I would like to, any help someone can be to help me identify where those are at, then we will try and plan our plats around the preservation of that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And again, my compliments on the design work that's been done. It's excellent.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, could I have just a moment?
Yes, no problem.
I just wanted to circle back to Mr. Palladini's comments. I think it's, and Leslie's question about the city actually acquiring and purchasing the strip. She's correct. Originally, what I wanted to have happen was I would reimburse for that strip of property, and I would have public streets. It's easier to market and sell public streets. HOA fees are less. The burden's on the city. Plow the snow, re-chip seal, fill the potholes, do the crack seals, et cetera, replace concrete if there's any. So I reluctantly agreed to have the private streets, and now I've embraced it. And as I try to do throughout life, is change is good if you will accept it. So the change has been made. This development, if you think about me building all of the streets and all of the infrastructure, no cost to the city, I'm responsible for all the low pressure sewer line on the project. The HOA will be. We're responsible for all the street maintenance. There is little to no cost going forward in the future for the city. They're going to get the impact fees. They'll get the building permit fees. They get their trail system through the property. I personally, and I've been doing this for 30 years, not just in Arizona, but in Colorado and Idaho. And this project, I think, is a spatial partnership. And I use that word lightly. We're not partners, but every developer works with the municipality. So together, as being team members, this is a great project and is a huge benefit for the city without the detriments of a lot of ongoing costs out here. Thank you.
And Chairman, there's no one else that wants to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Any other commission questions from any other commission members? If not, I want to thank Jeff for taking the time to present this to us. It's very informative. And I imagine down the road, we'll be looking at this again.
Mr. Chairman, you will see this numerous times as each of the annexation and follow-on subdivision plats occur.
Mr. Chairman, this is George Lee. I have a question for Jeff.
Okay, George.
Jeff, do you plan on doing any of the building of the homes in there?
That's a good question.
Okay, then you don't have to answer anything.
Not as much as my wife probably would like to. This will be more of the traditional Prescott development, like you've seen at the ranch and so many other subdivisions, even what you've done, George. The program here will be for me to do a good job at laying out these roads and building these roads, creating lots that are great custom home lots, and then put that out for all the builders. What I've seen that we are eliminating quickly is product for our local custom home builders and also our local subcontractor community. We've been mass grading and creating these small lots, production style. It's appealing to the bigger builders, but doesn't benefit guys like me. And I could sit here and name 10 other local fellows that are in my age group that have been around here building houses longer than even I have. Also, my subcontractor base, my plumbers and my HVAC, electricians, roofers, et cetera, are all local contractors. You know, they raise their families here. They go to church here. These guys aren't getting into the bigger projects. So the whole push here has been a combination of things, but that was one very big piece of it from my perspective. I could not do this. I've been very, very blessed. My two projects here are great projects. They're legacy projects, in my opinion, and I can hang up my hat and feel like I've been super successful and super blessed or lucky. And I'm pushing forward one more project and this one because I think, one, it attracts a buyer that isn't going to a lot of the other projects. These buyers will be, these will be $1 million estates. These buyers are going to be very affluent. They're going to come to our community. They're going to want to bring their businesses. They maybe will buy a business. They will invest in our community. They'll invest in our nonprofits here. I see them. I see that product missing right now. It's not being developed, and so I think that buyer for the community, as well as the work that this will create for our subcontractor base and our custom home builders, is important. Will my wife and I get in here and build a few houses? Yeah, I hope so. I think we build a very high-end luxury home, and we have a program that's a little different with our store downtown. So yes, we will build some, but I'll be a very small piece from that perspective.
Well, Jeff, as you know, you've got to keep the wife happy.
I appreciate that advice, George.
Thank you for your answer.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the time that allowing me to visit with you today.
Thank you again, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Why don't we go on to our next item, which is CSP 20-001, amendment to the comprehensive sign plan for Touchmark at the Ranch, 3174 East State Route 69. Property owner is Touchmark at the Ranch, and it is APN 103-20-713. Are you presenting, George?
I am, sir. So this is a proposed amendment to a comprehensive sign plan. We allow comprehensive sign plans for larger projects or projects that have multiple uses with them, and Touchmark at the Ranch meets both of those criteria. So they adopted a comprehensive sign plan that covered basic signage within the subdivision. Most of their sign plan affected a couple of signs that are visible off-site. The remainder of them were on-site signs that were more for direction once you're on the property. This amendment does a little bit of both of those things. So the original sign plan had signage that was visible from State Route 69, telling people what was up there, the large building, and then again on Lee Boulevard, leading people up to and into the site. They've proposed to add a couple of additional signs near or attached to the clubhouse building, which now contains a restaurant that is open to the public, as well as contains a fitness center. So I will show you these and then walk through each of these quickly, just to give you an idea of just what we're looking at. So the first sign, the number one sign shown on this plan, is for the restaurant called The Finn. That particular sign is visible on the roadway leading up to the Touchmark project. So it's one that will tell people who are driving up that hill, and it's quite a hill, where the Finn is located, which building it's in. The sign is to be attached to the existing structure. The lettering will be lighted at night. There's no external lighting, so this is an internally lighted well in scale with the rest of the building. So they're showing a sign with dimensions of 3'6" in height and 14 feet in length attached to the existing balcony area where there is outdoor seating for the restaurant. The second sign is on the parking lot side of the restaurant. It's a freestanding sign. It's a new monument sign, and that would catch traffic as they come in on the main roadway and point them into the parking area, point them to the front entry to the restaurant. Now, that sign is a small monument sign. It would have information on the name of the restaurant. Very standard, very straightforward. The third sign is associated with the fitness center, which is actually down below the restaurant level and accessed off of the other parking lot to the north. So that sign is a small entrance to fitness center identification sign. Were it not for the existence of a comprehensive sign plan, this would be considered directional signage, and we probably wouldn't even issue a permit for it given its size. It's only 3 square feet. So they're proposing 3 signs, one on the east side of the building on the balcony, that's 49 square feet, one on the parking lot side, a small freestanding sign that's 14 square feet, and then the fitness center sign, again, about 3 square feet. So roughly very small signage being added to the size of this overall complex, but it does have the comprehensive sign plan, and any changes to that plan require to go back through a process that involves your review and recommendation, and then ultimately council approving it. So the motion proposed by city staff is based on the fact that you would recommend one way or the other, and then the ultimate determination goes to the city council for final determination. We are recommending in favor of the change to the comprehensive sign plan. Given the location and sizes of the sign, staff believes they make sense and do not adversely affect any adjacent properties. And if you have questions about any part of that, I would be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me. Just a second. Okay. It's not COVID, trust me. I'm speaking through Butch's computer right now. My phone went dead. George, is the new sign illuminated? Is that going to be obviously conform with the dark sky ordinance?
Yes, sir, it does. So our ordinance prohibits white lighted backgrounds because they're so bright, but it allows individual letters to be lighted. Given the background of the overall project, the white lettering, the lighting that's proposed for it will be very muted.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, who asked that question?
Greg Lozelle.
That was Greg Lozelle.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Any other comments or questions?
This is Ted Gambogi. Are both the Finn Restaurant and the fitness center open to the public?
I believe both are open to the public, yes, sir.
The sign on the front of the Finn Center, wouldn't that be better placed?
Freestanding?
Number 2, that one. Wouldn't that be better placed at the entrance to the parking lot? I mean, right now, the way it's set up, you'd have to drive past the parking lot to see the sign, and then you'd have to turn around and go back to the parking lot.
I believe the location proposed for this sign would be visible as you make that curve and would be able to pull into the parking lot. If you also notice, right at the front entrance, there is a loop driveway, which is basically a loading, unloading area, and the sign would also let you use that for access to the restaurant. So someone could pull in, drop off guests, and then park in the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions or comments? If not, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Greg Lozelle. I'd like to make a motion to move to approve CSP 20-001, amending the comprehensive sign plan for Dutch Market Ranch.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Ted Gambogi. I second that motion.
We have a motion with a second. Any further discussion? If not, Kaylee, would you take a vote for us?
Certainly. Okay. Say yes or no after your name. Ted Gambogi.
Yes.
Don Michaelman.
Yes.
George Lee.
Yes.
Thomas Hutchison.
Hi. That's yes in Japanese.
Okay. Thank you. Sam Doligotsky.
Yes.
Butch Tracy.
Yes.
Greg Lozelle.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Next on the agenda, are there any staff updates?
Mr. Chair, this is
I
Brent.
do not have any. Go ahead, Brent.
I was just going to say, we don't really have any staff updates. Current or a summary of current or recent events would take a while. So we just wanted to thank you all for hanging in there with us while City Hall is closed. We are in here working diligently, and I really appreciate everybody getting on board with this newfangled way of doing our public meetings. We appreciate you working with us through the challenges, and we hope that at some point we can all be together again in June. We'll keep you posted.
This is Ted Gambogi. I support that. I think it's much better to meet in person, but you've all done a good job on this Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
I want to commend the staff. Tammy and George and Kaylee and Michelle Chavez have all worked very hard to make sure that our meetings can go forward successfully. And as I mentioned, you've all been a big part of that as well. So thank you all.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Greg Lozelle. Do we anticipate the next meeting being the same way with Zoom?
You know, Greg,
that's to be determined, isn't it?
we're really not certain at this point. There is some talk of City Hall being opened again, and we're waiting on the city manager to determine what metrics will be relied upon in order to do that. I think if we have open doors to City Hall, the council chambers have been slightly modified to accommodate COVID precautions. So we would, of course, if City Hall is open, probably resume to having the commission chambers, and then we'll probably be working with the city clerk's office on whether or not public participation will be in person or via this manner going forward. It's going to be sort of an organizational decision, not just a department decision.
Tom Hutchison here. I would suggest that you have a hybrid system where people have a choice.
We really like the Zoom interface because we are actually on most meetings getting more public participation than we normally do, and we deem that a positive. So I would foresee that going forward we would maintain this option for the public indefinitely.
Good.
Any other comments then? Well, thank you all for taking your time to join in the meeting today. It was an informative one, a little longer than we may have planned on, but I think we gained a lot of information out of it. And we will see each other in August.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
How do I, oh, Lee.